Hi class, my name is Danilo, and for my policy project I chose to do youth gang involvement. So the modern street gang scene in the United States really took off during the 80s and the 90s. It was the beginning of the crack epidemic, and the drug was spreading through the streets. Gangs began to emerge in major cities like South Central Los Angeles, Chicago, and Detroit. 1996 arrived and saw a major decrease in the amount of street gangs, and it was a steady decrease every year up until 2003. In 1996, there were 31,000 street gangs, and that number dropped to just over 20,000 in 2003. So 2003, we're at 20,000, and then something bad happens. The number by 2012 returned to over 30,000. So why did this happen? Well, before the 1990s, we didn't really know too much about gangs because they were so new. But what do we know now? A couple things. A study conducted in the U.S. showed the demographic makeup of current U.S. gangs was about 24% white, 31% African American, 25% Hispanic, and then a nice mix of other races for the other 19%. Some other things: the modal age for joining a gang is 13 to 15. Girls comprise of a third of gangs, and gangs are not just limited to cities, as they are found in urban areas as well. We do know that children who are from low socioeconomic status and those who live in a single-parent household are much more likely to be coerced into joining a street gang. So what are some of the individual risk factors that point to being at risk for getting involved with gang activity? According to multiple studies, youth who experience behavioral problems such as impulsivity or a lack of self-esteem are more likely to be involved with gangs than those who are not. Family, school, and peer factors also all played a significant role in determining if a child is more or less likely to get involved in a gang. Parental monitoring and level of attachment to the parents were far lower among gang youth than non-gang youth. If parental monitoring is much more frequent, studies showed that youth were less likely to get involved with gangs. Levels of commitment to school, perceived limited educational opportunities, and a perceived negative school environment also all negatively affected the children and altered their likelihood of getting involved with a gang. Gang youth were much more likely to view their educational environments as hostile and less than friendly, and they saw much more restricted educational opportunities. And finally, peer factors were an extremely strong determining factor. The strongest reporters of gang affiliation were a high level of interaction with antisocial peers and a low level of interaction with prosocial peers. So why do youth turn to gangs? 28 to 56% of gang membership cited protection as their reason for joining. A youth's perceived safety and security is a major risk factor for joining a gang. For youth, the risk of the unknown or the uncontrollable is less than that. The risk is more than that of what is known and what is controllable. Current gang youth prevention initiatives or programs in the U.S. usually focus on one of three things: preventing youth from joining gangs, intervening with youth who exhibit risky behaviors, and then suppressing the action from the youth being in a gang overall. So that's where we get to my policy that Governor Brown will love. I called it the Educated Teacher Parent Initiative. The mission of the program would be raising the awareness on factors of gang involvement to the adults that will be supervising youth the most often, parents and teachers. It's critical that teachers and parents are informed about potential behavioral risk factors that can develop early and show strong correlation to gang involvement later on in adolescence. By bringing trained professionals to train potential teachers before they actually take over a classroom, they will be much more likely to recognize signs of risk factors and can promptly inform administration and the family on these educational risk factors. Teachers would also learn how to mediate conflict. Schools can host classes that provide gang awareness as well. Additionally, the public school system would offer classes for parents during the third grade to learn about gang culture, contributing risk factors that can occur, both family and individual risk factors. Parents will gain valuable knowledge and gang awareness and be able to address elevated risk factors for joining a gang. A major change that would be implemented is a softening of zero-tolerance policy and punishment. Rather than suspending or expelling students, which leads to less supervision and much more involvement on the streets, students would stay in school and receive programming that will look to correct and curtail the negative actions or behaviors. The best part is this is free. It doesn't cost any money to just change the school policy. And around second or third grade, students would begin having classes with trained professionals to work on their interpersonal skills such as verbal communication, listening skills, and negotiation and problem solving. Developing these skills early on can prevent other various issues that accompany these negative behaviors later on in adolescence. They'll learn how to share with people, work out their problems, and not act on impulse as much. This will happen around the second or third grade. Alright, that's it. Thank you.